book has been under development for quite some time. Now, how do I know that? Well, I was actually interviewed for this book. Hello, fellow Ozians. I'm the Louisiana Quadling, a Wizard of Oz collector and enthusiast, sharing with you my thoughts, my collection, and a little bit of my musical talent with all of you. And welcome to my channel. Today, we are looking at a brand new book. Oz and the Musical, Performing the American Fairy Tale, was written by current Vice President of the International Wizard of Oz Club, Ryan Bunch. Ryan is a longtime member of the International Wizard of Oz Club and is also the incoming new president of the club. This book has been in the makings for well over 6 years. We'll get back to that a little bit later in the video. So, what's the book about? Let's get one thing out of the way first. This is not a historical book that chronicles the history of Wizard of Oz musicals. It doesn't do any of that. This book has a completely different goal in mind. Ryan discusses how the Wizard of Oz and the musical, specifically the American musical, are similar in the way that they view America and also in the way that they depict America as a utopia. I think Ryan has a really good argument with this book and does a really good job discussing all of the different topics and nuances in American culture that are associated with The Wizard of Oz. This is a very academic book, and it was so refreshing. Cannot tell you how refreshing it was to read something that was not trying to convince me that L. Frank Baum was interested in populism when he wrote The Wizard of Oz. Oh, that was so refreshing. The book covers the major Wizard of Oz musicals going all the way back to 1903 with the original Broadway musical, The Wizard of Oz. Next, it covers the 1939 Judy Garland musical. Then, The Wiz. And lastly, Wicked. The final chapter of the book discusses local plays of The Wizard of Oz and also how people played The Wizard of Oz at home. Now, when I say covers each of these plays, what I really mean by that is that Ryan picks apart each of these plays on a minute level. He throws a whole lot of concepts at you pretty much all the time in this book, and I don't mean that in a bad way. He has such a great usage of words and also playing with words in this book that I haven't read anything quite on this level since I was in college. And while I was studying my undergraduate, I took some classes on film studies, and yes, one of them was on musicals. Anyways, for those classes, we had to read articles about whatever film or films we were going to be discussing in class. And this book was very reminiscent of pretty much all of the articles that I read for those classes, so it was really refreshing to be able to read something that was discussing Oz in that way. So I really liked that. Now, as I said earlier in this video, this book has been under development for quite some time. Now, how do I know that? Well, I was actually interviewed for this book back in 2017. Yeah, that was quite a while ago. Anyways, I remember Ryan telling me, oh, this will take at the most an hour to do. So we did the interview over Skype, and it was well over 2 hours. I mean, you know, you get me talking about Wizard of Oz and we'll kind of be here for a while. Anyways, I remember Ryan telling me it was the longest interview he had done up to that point, so yeah, that was a thing. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, what did we discuss? Obviously, Ryan did ask me questions about each of the musicals that he was going to cover in this book. But he really wasn't too interested in my views on that. He was more interested in hearing about how I played and interacted with the Wizard of Oz stories as a child. and more specifically how, when I was a child, we made home movies centered around Wizard of Oz stories. Now, if you haven't heard me talk about the home movies that we made when I was a kid, I actually did a video discussing somewhat all of that. I have that video linked down in the description. So after I was interviewed, all said and done, I really didn't know if any of it was going to make it into the final book, and to my surprise, I did indeed get into the final book. Now, my sister and I have been renamed, but I knew about that ahead of time. We're mentioned in that last chapter, and then there was Oz again. And that's not all of the connections that this book has to my family. At the conclusion of that same chapter, Ryan discusses one of his highlights from the 2017 National Oz Club Convention, which was a musical concert that my mom actually put together. Now, when you put together and or helping out with events, you really don't know how people are going to take it or if they're going to enjoy anything unless, they tell you afterwards. So, it was really cool on a lot of levels to be able to read what Ryan had to say. And it was even more cool that it was published. So, with all of that, I just have to say thank you. My mom really appreciated that was in the book, and I really appreciate the little bits that you've got in there, and just thank you. This book is available from stores like Amazon and Barnes & Noble. This paperback version is $35, and if you want the hardback version, it is a whopping $110. I went with the paperback, and I'll let you decide on which one you want to get. I provided a link down below to both websites. So, have you read Oz and the Musical? Comment down below. And if you liked that video, please give it a thumbs up, comment down below, and subscribe. New videos are posted every 2 weeks on the 15th and last day of each month. And if that doesn't satisfy your appetite for Oz, follow the link in the description to ozclub.org and join the International Wizard of Oz Club. Until next time, bye y'all.